powerful moment, y'all. She said this is her first time ever publicly sharing, so I'm excited.
Okay. So pretty much I grew up in a home that, we're kind of Christian, like, we went to church, like, on the holidays and like, every once in a while. But whenever I went, it was never anything that like super resonated with me. I also remember my grandmother used to try to make me and my cousins go to Sunday school. And I was always intrigued or interested to go just because I was very inquisitive about things. So when I used to go there, I would ask questions like, okay, so like what happens when you die? Or like what happens if all these people don't believe? Like where do they go? Like I was always just asking these really hard questions. And whenever I would ask them, the people usually never gave me an answer that like settled anything. Like it always just like, it was like they would beat around the bush. And so with that, I never took it with me. So I'm just like, okay, it was still like surfacey. So throughout my life, I kind of believed in God, or I believed that there was higher power. I was a Christian just because my family were Christians, but that kind of changed when I went to college. I went to University of New Haven, and when I went there, my major was music industry. So, I was pursuing to be an artist manager and all this stuff. And so when I get there, I'm in like literally a community of people who literally were very musically inclined and stuff like that. And where I lived at specifically, the group of girls that I was with, there was like this one specific person, and she believed in she was like a Wiccan. So like she did witchcraft and things of that nature. But I didn't necessarily know, like, it sounded, I don't want to say off, but it sounded weird to me. You know what I'm saying? It involved supernatural things. And being that I was so open-minded to stuff, I would ask her questions and things like that. And she kind of like opened up this door for me. And I started kind of doing things that she did. So basically I started doing yoga. I started even pondering the thought of being a vegan. And it wasn't for reasons necessarily of like for the animals at the time. It was more so like to lower so the thing with eating meat that they believe is that if you eat meat, it will lower your vibrations. And so when you don't eat it and you're eating a whole bunch of plant-based living things, it raises your vibrations. And so the point of raising your vibrations is that you'll become enlightened, and that it'll help you to open up more truth and all of this stuff. And so I was like, okay, say less. I was like, I'm searching for truth. So, this seems like the thing to do. And so I kind of started from there, and it kind of seemed like it was going for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I kind of started to practice with it every morning. I would do yoga. I would meditate. I would try to. And things kind of started shifting even more so the next year, my sophomore year, because I ended up having a roommate, and she was pretty much everything that kind of like helped me to grow more so in that practice, because she kind of grew up in it. So like her mom kind of taught her things and things like that. So she was more solidified. So being that I live with her, she was able to teach me, okay, so now is deeper than what you kind of learned before. So now it's like we're dealing with spirit guides. This is something different. You know what I'm saying? This is like, okay, you can actually talk to these beings, these higher beings, and you can pray to them. You can talk to them, ask them for things. And so I started doing that. I said every day or every time before I would go to sleep, I would pray to them. I would say thank you, all of this stuff. Wherever I would go, I would pray to them, ask them to keep me safe and things of that nature. I remember even sometimes when I used to go out to parties, I know that I was in an environment that probably wasn't always the safest or the best, because, I used to smoke weed and stuff like that. So my mind kind of, wouldn't be here. So I would pray to them, like, pray that you would just keep me safe and all this stuff. And, I always got out of the parties, safe and sound, glory be to God. But, at the time, that's what I knew. I knew that there was something more than just the natural. And so at the time, that was the perfect thing for me to get into, to begin to explore the supernatural, the spirit realm. And so on that journey, in that sophomore year, I started getting crystals. I started meditating with crystals because when you take the crystals, supposedly that's supposed to also help you to raise your vibrations. So I would literally like charge them in the sun. When I would have my yoga time, I would keep them there on the mat with me and all this stuff. I wear crystal necklaces all the time wherever I went, and the certain crystals has certain things too that they would help you. I also try to balance my chakras. So, you know, we all, I don't want to say we have these, but in their belief, it's like you have these energy centers. And so, and each one means certain things. And so the point is to basically unlock each one of them so that you can completely like open up this Kundalini thing. And that's, Kundalini is basically, like this serpent thing, and it lives at the base of you. And so literally it springs up when everything is like open. So it's like ding, ding, like it literally is like that. And so I was always intrigued in the chakra, this one is basically the third eye chakra. And so I was always, because I knew that when you have your third eye is basically that opens up even more so into the spirit realm. So like for Christians, it would be like more so like prophetic and things of that nature. But for them, it's like psychic type of things. And so, I was kind of, with my vegan style also, like I was trying to figure out how to like cleanse my pineal glands, because that's connected to that and everything. And so I read books on it, like how to fast or how to eat certain things or whatever in order to help me kind of, you know, be healthy and whatnot. I would do yoga to, like I said, to kind of help me in that as well. And also the chakras comes from the religion Hinduism. Buddhism is similar in that. And so the religions I used to believe were like those things, the things that, you know, were seeming like to make you like a good person. Ultimately, the thing that kind of will help you to reach enlightenment, nirvana eventually. And I also kind of even used to believe in reincarnation as well. Because they say like in the Hinduism, like you continuously like die until, or you continuously live or are reborn until basically you reach this point of like you've experienced everything. And so now that you can kind of live in like this eternal peace thing. And so it seemed interesting to me. It seemed like it made sense. You know what I'm saying? Nothing ever really went wrong, I would say, by living this lifestyle. But there was still this hunger and this desire to know more, because I was never settled on that. I was always still looking even to other religions. So I would start even looking to like African spiritualism type stuff. And like all the different, you know, things that they believed in as well. And just to think, I was honestly, I will share this too, but I used to even believe in that. It sounds crazy, but I definitely used to believe in that there were like aliens, and they came here, and then we were kind of actually descendants from people from different planets. And so, and it kind of started making sense to me, because I realized that, you know, in ancient civilizations, they all kind of were connected in some kind of way. Like they all did things and they honored these God things or whatever, but they were never connected. Like they never met each other. There's places in different types of the world. So I'm like, how are they doing similar things, but they never met each other? You know what I'm saying? So like, what are these beings that came here that, you know what I'm saying? So I was so intrigued in knowing that they were connected some way, somehow. And that seemed like it was truth to me. So to continue on, it's a lot. To continue, things never completely settled until I would say, or things began to, I think, settle when the spring semester of my sophomore year came about. And I feel like God began to actually do a thing. And for one, I would say I changed my major. I was no longer a music industry, because I used to watch a lot of documentaries. And I one day just had an epiphany when I was on a train going back to school. And I was just like, wait, I'm supposed to help people eat better. I was like, I feel like that's more of my purpose. Like this, and I literally cried too. It was like something that was like overwhelming, like came over me. It was like, this is it. And this is before I knew God or anything, but it was just something knowing inside of me that was just like, you got to go for it with this. And so like immediately I changed my major. And so then I became dietetics and everything like that. And so in my sophomore year, with that being said, I remember my mom was telling me she wanted me to transfer to Rutgers. And mind you, when she said this, I immediately shut it down. I was like, I'm not transferring to Rutgers. I was like, I'm already here. Like, I'm almost done with school, this and that. Like, even though she was saying, having a good argument with it, like, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't want to hear it because I'm like, I got my friends here, got this and that, or whatever. Everything's kind of going good for me right now. But long story short, maybe like a month or two later, one of my roommates, they were actually going to transfer from the school because my school ended up getting rid of her major. So she actually had no choice but to leave. And then my other two roommates, they were going to Italy the next semester. So I literally would be by myself. The reason I was staying, they're all going. So now it's like, I could just transfer to Rutgers. Like the idea of going to Rutgers kind of seems so much bigger or so much better now. And so with that being said, literally that thought came into my mind now. I'm like, okay, so I think I'm gonna go to Rutgers. So I literally, I applied to it and everything. And at the end of the semester, you know, after everything was done, I withdrew from UNH before I even got accepted into Rutgers. It was like I was literally stepping out on faith. I was like, it's just something in me was like, I can't go back to this school. Like, it's just done. And this is literally before I knew God. And so I just knew that I had to leave. And so I think maybe like a month later, I ended up getting the acceptance into it. And so now here we are into the summer of, summer 2016. And so this is where, you know, things really begin to shift because I ended up going to this camp counseling thing. And so the job is basically you have camp counselors at different parks stationed in Linden. And so we would just be outside for like 8 hours and, you know, whatever kids come to the park, you know, you play with them or, you know, offer them certain things so that they can, you know, enjoy themselves. And so this is also, I know that it was God looking back into it because when they gave me my assignment of where I was supposed to go for the park, there was this one park in particular that I went to go to because it was right next to my grandmother's house. And I was like, you know, it's mad easy. It's right there. I could just walk. I don't have to do too much. But they ended up giving me this park that's like mad far and I had to drive. And I'm like, oh, you know, that's a lot. But it was actually such a blessing because when I went to that park, it was quiet. I didn't do too much. Literally all I did outside was just sit there, you know, just converse with my coworker. And so this is where, you know, God really starts to show himself because one of my friends from high school, he came there and he was like a preacher type of guy. So like in high school, I didn't really know him too much, but you know, he had suits and stuff. He was just very set apart. He's very set apart, I would say. And so I knew that he was a man of God. So when he came there, I started asking him questions. You know, I feel like it wasn't even initial. I think the conversations always ended up going to the Bible some way, somehow. And that God is just so funny just because with that, I began to ask him questions and he was always able to give me an answer that actually like unlocked something in my head. I was like, that makes sense. I was like, I never thought about it like that. Like he was literally so relatable. It was crazy because I feel like when I grew up, I had that same mind. I had that same desire to ask questions, to know truth. And they weren't able to give me that. But he was able to. And I was just like something began to shift in my heart. And so literally every day, I was literally there like Monday through Friday for 8 hours from 12 to 8. And so he lives around in that area. So he would come there to play basketball and he knew my coworker too. So he would be there for hours and we would just be outside just talking. And so this time I realized also, a side note, I was like a conspiracy theorist type of person. I was a conspiracy theorist type of person. And so, you know, I believed in like the Illuminati and all that stuff. And so I even brought that up to him and whatnot. And so he actually believed in it too. Like he was like, he understood exactly what I was saying. But my perspective was, I didn't know about God, Jesus, or none of that. All I knew was that there was this evil society. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know too much into it though. So he started talking about it. And then, you know, you add in the perspective of God and then you have like the devil. And I'm like, this is different compared to what I knew. You know what I'm saying? There's another element to it. It's not just what you see. There's a lot. It's deeper. It's like it's more spiritual than what it is like of what your natural eyes see. And so he would kind of talk to me in that, and being that he was able to meet me in a place of understanding or like of relation, I feel like that helped to connect and open up, new doors into my head, into my understanding. And so with that, I became more intrigued. I started looking more things up. I would say that he was able to like refute a lot of beliefs that I personally had about all my other religions. And then even with Jesus, honestly, I was the Antichrist. I had the Antichrist spirit in my soul. It was there because whenever anybody would talk about Jesus, I was like, no, he's not real. All of this, like, I did not believe in Jesus whatsoever. I literally compared him to other gods and other religions, just saying, he's regular and all this stuff, like it's man-made, this and that. Like I didn't see too much of a reason to believe in him. And so literally through the days of the summer as they went by, the more that he's talked to me, it was just, I don't know, like my mind just began to just open up to this idea of a Jesus, of a God, of a personal God, because I used to believe like a source, like it's just this, we're all connected and that's it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a being that's like looking over us and, who's with us and who cares for us, all that. I didn't know too much about that. So I feel like maybe more so in like July, like mid and July, things started changing, because I remember asking my friend one day about smoking weed, because I was like, okay, like it comes from the earth, it's a plant, like, what's the big deal about it? Like I'm kind of like okay when I smoke it. I only do it socially. It's not like I do it every day. And he was like, I was like basically, so like, can I smoke it? And he looked at me, he was like, you already know my answer. And then I was like, I knew that it was no. But I was just like, I didn't like that he said no. I was like, because it doesn't make sense. I'm like, it's a plant. God put plants here. Why can't I use this? You know what I'm saying? And there's also the medicinal purposes and all that stuff. And so literally, I would say a couple days later on the weekend, I remember going with some friends. And mind you, I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm still gonna smoke. So I go with some friends to like this house. I go with some friends to this house, and we were literally just chilling, and we were smoking. And I remember looking down at my phone, and mind you, I used to believe, or I'm not used to, I still believe in like, God talks to me in numbers. So when I see certain numbers together, they mean something. And so God met me, he speaks to me in that way now. Like it's not for demonic purposes. Now it's for God. God uses that. And so the first time that he really did that, the usage of numbers, I was at this place, and I looked at my phone while I was super high. I was super out of it. And I looked at my phone, and I seen like literally the numbers like 333 and 666. And they were like, I seen them like on the left and then 666 on the right. And so I look at that, and it was like, I immediately had this knowing that it was like, you choose me or you choose the devil. That's literally like the thing that I knew in my head, that's what that meant. And I was like, mind you, I'm already high. So I'm like tripping out, and I'm like, wait, it was a lot. So that was like my first, I would say, like encounter. And so basically after that, I ended up telling my preacher friend about it too, and he was kind of actually a little appalled about the situation. Not the fact that I don't think I was smoking, but I guess the experience and what took place. So can like continue the story. Another encounter I ended up having with him was, I used to have a nose ring, and now mind you, there's nothing wrong with nose rings, but for me personally, when I used to get nose rings, I feel like I was getting it because I was trying to look a certain way, and it wasn't necessarily for me. I feel like I was like, oh, it looks cool, so people might like me or think I'm more attractive and all this stuff. And mind you, literally, I've gotten my nose pierced like 3 times, and it was because it would close up, like it would never fully heal. But I was just like, but I kept doing it because you know what I'm saying? So I just wasn't listening or seeing the signs at the time. But But long story short, when I was talking to my friend about it, he ended up telling me something about, when you get certain piercings and whatnot. And although I believe that it's not necessarily true for everybody, for me, because he was just saying how it relates to like witchcraft or something like that. But for me, I was kind of like a witch. You know what I'm saying? Like I kind of lived my life in that way. And so I feel like I immediately began to think like, I don't want to be related or to anything like that. So I remember going home, I think even that night, or maybe during the weekend, and I remember just looking at myself in the mirror, and it's like, I started crying. Like I just bawled out crying, and I literally like took out my nose ring. I was like, I'm done. I feel like, I don't remember what was happening, but I do believe that God's presence kind of like filled the room, and it was just like this love. It was like this love, like this is not who you are. And then it was just, I don't remember what was happening, but I do know that I was like overwhelmed, and I realized like, I don't need this, you know what I'm saying? This is not who I am. And so then I took that nose ring out, and I was done with that look. And so, yeah, to fast forward, I would say that to sum it all up, I found out like that Jesus was the way and the truth and the life, like at the end of that summer. And like I ended off like, because we had to give basically like a review at the end for my job, and I was just, at that time I knew specific, like for sure it was like in mid-August, and I was like, I know Jesus now, like my life was changed. Like I was deceived like no other, and my whole life has just kind of been searching for this truth. For like I always had this deep knowing that there was more. And so for God to really go through the depths and to literally take me out of my other school to just literally just transitioning me, like without me even knowing it really, and to get to this place to where he had a person come to the park almost every day to preach the gospel to me. Like he came here every day just about to talk to me, he had patience with me too, because I wasn't a believer. So you're literally coming against somebody who did not believe in the Lord. And I remember also to say that there was a time where I said it in my heart that Jesus was Lord, because I remember that he did touch on that. And I wasn't able to confess it with my mouth that Jesus Christ was Lord. I literally, it gripped my tongue. I could say like, something inside of me could not say that Jesus Christ was Lord. So I'm thankful that I was delivered from that, because now I can scream it, I can shout it. Now I can scream it and I can shout it. Oh, Jesus. That's another kind of love. I was on my way to hell. I was on my way to hell. I had no idea. I had no idea. So I'm grateful that he gave me the opportunity to have the knowledge to know that there is salvation. Salvation in him and him alone. Oh my goodness. Everything else was not truth. It was deception. I was deceived. But I thank him for unveiling and showing me that he is the way, the only way. Oh, that he's the only way. Oh, goodness. And so for that, like I say, thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for showing us that, this world is temporary. Thank you, Jesus, for showing us that, this world is just a pit stop. It's just a pit stop. And I thank you for just coming and just doing whatever you could to take me out of that place of damnation. Oh, goodness. Now I can say I'm a child of God, the Most High God, a daughter. Never knew myself, but now I do. Oh, goodness. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, great shot, sister.